This was what he had been born for, what he had trained his whole life for, to defend his kingdom against all who would dare to threaten it. But amidst the chaos of war, there was a voice in the back of Aric's mind, whispering words of doubt and uncertainty. In the vast kingdom of Illyria, nestled amidst rolling hills and lush forests, two young boys, Aric and Bryn, were born to King Eldric, the ruler of the land. Aric, the elder of the two, possessed a wild spirit that matched the untamed wilderness surrounding the castle walls. His unruly mop of chestnut hair often fell into his piercing blue eyes, which sparkled with curiosity and mischief. Bryn, on the other hand, was his complete opposite. With neatly combed hair and a calm demeanor, he preferred the quiet solitude of the castle library, where he spent hours lost in books and scrolls. From the moment they were born, expectations weighed heavily upon the brothers' shoulders. As the heirs to the throne, they were destined to inherit the kingdom one day. King Eldric, a stern but fair ruler, watched over them with a mixture of pride and apprehension. He knew that the future of Illyria rested upon their young shoulders, and he sought to mold them into worthy leaders. Despite their differences, Aric and Bryn shared a deep bond forged through years of shared adventures and secret escapades within the castle walls. They were inseparable, their complementary personalities balancing each other out. Aric's reckless bravery often landed them in trouble, but Bryn's quick thinking and calm demeanor always managed to extricate them from dangerous situations. As the boys grew older, the kingdom of Illyria faced growing unrest. Whispers of rebellion echoed through the land, fueled by discontent among the common folk and whispers of betrayal within the nobility. King Eldric, burdened by the weight of his crown, struggled to maintain order amidst the growing chaos. In the midst of this turmoil, the differences between Aric and Bryn became more pronounced. While Aric chafed against the confines of the castle walls, yearning for adventure beyond the kingdom's borders, Bryn grew more introspective, immersing himself in the study of history and politics. Their father, King Eldric, recognized their strengths and weaknesses, and he sought to prepare them for the challenges that lay ahead. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast a golden glow upon the castle courtyard, King Eldric summoned his sons to his side. He addressed them with a solemn expression. "My sons," he began, his voice carrying the weight of years of rulership, "the time has come for you to embrace your destiny. The kingdom of Illyria stands on the brink of uncertainty, and it is up to you to guide our people through these troubled times." Aric, his eyes shining with excitement, nodded eagerly, ready to prove himself worthy of his father's trust. Bryn, ever the cautious one, listened intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Each of you possesses unique strengths," King Eldric continued, his gaze shifting between his sons. "Aric, your courage and determination will serve you well in the face of adversity. But remember, bravery alone is not enough. And Bryn, your intellect and wisdom will be invaluable in navigating the intricacies of court politics. But do not underestimate the power of action when words fail." With his words hanging in the air like a solemn oath, King Eldric placed his hands upon his son's shoulders, his eyes filled with pride and love. "As the heirs of Illyria, it is your duty to uphold the legacy of our ancestors and safeguard the future of our kingdom. Together, you are stronger than any foe, but divided, you risk losing everything we hold dear." And so, as the stars twinkled overhead and the moon cast its silvery light upon the castle walls, Aric and Bryn stood side by side, their hearts filled with determination and hope. For the fate of Illyria rested in their hands, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. It all started with murmurs, whispers exchanged in hushed tones among the common folk. The air was thick with unrest, and the brothers couldn't help but notice the unease that lingered on the faces of the people. Aric, with his keen eyes, observed the subtle shifts in the mood of the kingdom. He saw the furrowed brows and clenched fists of those who felt oppressed by the crown. Bryn, on the other hand, immersed himself in his books, seeking solace and understanding in the wisdom of philosophers and artists of old. King Eldric, oblivious to the growing discontent among his subjects, responded with a heavy hand. His decrees became harsher, his taxes more burdensome, as if to quell any seeds of rebellion before they could take root. But his actions only served to fan the flames of dissent, pushing the kingdom to the brink of civil war. Aric, sensing the impending conflict, knew he had to prepare himself for the battles ahead. Under the guidance of seasoned warriors, he began his training in combat. From dawn till dusk, he honed his skills with sword and shield, learning the art of war with a determination that burned bright within him. But Aric understood that swords alone would not win this war. He also delved into the intricacies of diplomacy, studying the strategies of great leaders who wielded words as deftly as they did weapons. He learned the importance of alliances and negotiations, knowing that sometimes peace could be achieved through dialogue rather than bloodshed. Meanwhile, Bryn found himself drawn deeper into the realm of ideas and expression. In the quiet corners of the library, he lost himself in the works of philosophers who pondered the nature of power and justice. He sought inspiration in the brushstrokes of artists who captured the beauty and pain of the human experience. Through his studies, Bryn came to understand that rebellion was not just about physical conflict, but also about the clash of ideologies. He saw how the ideals of freedom and equality ignited the hearts of the oppressed, fueling their desire for change. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, tensions continued to rise in Eldoria. The people grew bolder in their defiance, openly challenging the authority of the crown. King Eldric, blinded by his own pride, refused to heed the warnings of his advisors, believing that his power was absolute and unshakable. But Aric and Bryn knew better. They could feel the storm gathering on the horizon, the rumblings of discontent echoing through the land. And though they came from different worlds, one a warrior, the other a scholar, they shared a common purpose: to stand against tyranny and fight for the freedom of their people. And so, as the shadows of rebellion stretched across the kingdom, the brothers prepared themselves for the battles that lay ahead. With swords in hand and hearts ablaze with determination, they vowed to stand together against the darkness, ready to face whatever trials fate would throw their way. For they knew that only by uniting their strengths, the strength of arms and the strength of mind, could they hope to overcome the challenges that awaited them in the days to come. Aric and Bryn shared a bond as strong as the stone walls of their royal palace. At the age of 9, they were inseparable, their laughter echoing through the halls as they explored every nook and cranny of their ancestral home. As the kingdom teetered on the brink of turmoil, Aric and Bryn found solace in each other's company. In the quiet moments between their studies and royal duties, they would steal away to the gardens, where the scent of blooming flowers mingled with the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Their laughter would ring out like music, a joyful symphony amidst the growing storm of uncertainty. They would race through the maze of hedges, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls as they chased each other with abandon. But amidst the carefree moments of childhood, there lingered an undercurrent of unease. The whispers of rebellion grew louder with each passing day, casting a shadow over the kingdom they called home. Yet, in the face of adversity, Aric and Bryn stood united, their bond a beacon of strength amidst the chaos. Together, they faced the challenges that lay ahead, their loyalty to each other unwavering. They would spend long hours in the library, poring over ancient tomes and scrolls, seeking wisdom in the words of their forefathers. And as they studied, they would debate fiercely, their voices rising and falling in passionate discourse. But even in their disagreements, there was a mutual respect that bound them together. They may have been different in temperament and inclination, but they shared a common goal: to protect their kingdom and their people. As the threat of war loomed ever closer, Aric and Bryn found themselves shouldering the weight of their responsibilities with growing solemnity. They would stand side by side at court, their young faces set in expressions of determination as they listened to their father, King Eldric, discuss the affairs of state. And when the day would draw to a close, and the candles burn low in the flickering light, they would retire to their chambers, where they would talk long into the night, their voices hushed with the weight of their shared burden. But amidst the darkness, there was a light that burned bright, the bond between two brothers, forged in the crucible of adversity. As they faced the unknown together, they found strength in each other's presence, a reminder that no matter what trials lay ahead, they would always have each other. And so, as the kingdom of Iloria stood on the brink of war, Aric and Bryn stood united, their bond stronger than ever before. For in the face of uncertainty, there was one thing they knew for certain: as long as they had each other, they could weather any storm that came their way. In the heart of the royal palace, where the torches burned bright and the echoes of footsteps filled the corridors, King Eldric summoned his eldest son, Aric, to his side. The young prince, barely 10 years old, stood before his father with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, his heart pounding in his chest. "Father," Aric said, his voice trembling with anticipation. "You called for me?" King Eldric nodded solemnly, his brow furrowed with worry. "Yes, my son," he replied, his voice grave. "The time has come for you to take up your mantle as a leader of our kingdom." Aric's eyes widened with surprise, his chest swelling with pride. "You mean?" he began, but his father cut him off with a raised hand. "Yes, Aric," King Eldric said, his voice firm. "I am calling upon you to lead our royal armies in quelling the rebellion that threatens our land." For a moment, Aric could scarcely believe his ears. To be entrusted with such a weighty responsibility at such a young age was a daunting prospect, but he knew that he could not refuse his father's command. "I will do whatever it takes to defend our kingdom, Father," Aric said, his voice steady with determination. "I will not let you down." And with that, he bowed low before his father, his heart filled with a sense of purpose. As he made his way to the armory to prepare for battle, Aric felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. He was ready to prove himself, to show the world that he was worthy of the title of prince. Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Bryn paced restlessly in his chambers, his mind swirling with doubt and uncertainty. The prospect of violence and bloodshed weighed heavily on his young shoulders, and he found himself questioning the righteousness of their cause. "Is this truly the path we must take, Father?" Bryn whispered to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. "Is there no other way to bring peace to our kingdom?" But try as he might, Bryn could find no answers to his questions. The specter of war loomed large in his mind, casting a shadow over his thoughts and filling him with a sense of foreboding. As he gazed out the window at the moonlit courtyard below, Bryn felt a sense of unease gnawing at his insides. He knew that he could not stand idly by while his brother marched off to war, but the thought of joining him on the battlefield filled him with a sense of dread. And so, as the night wore on and the hour grew late, Bryn made a decision. He would confront his father and plead for an alternative course of action, one that did not involve the shedding of blood. For in his heart of hearts, Bryn knew that there had to be another way to bring peace to their kingdom. And he was determined to find it, no matter the cost. The sun rose on the kingdom of Iloria, casting its golden light over the land and bathing the royal palace in a warm glow. But beneath the surface tranquility, a storm was brewing, one that would forever alter the course of history. As the first light of dawn broke across the horizon, the sound of drums echoed through the air, signaling the beginning of the end. The civil war had erupted, plunging Illyria into chaos and strife. Aric stood at the head of the royal armies, his heart pounding in his chest as he surveyed the battlefield before him. The air was thick with tension, the ground trembling beneath the weight of 1,000 marching feet. With a steady hand and a determined gaze, Aric raised his sword high, signaling the charge. "For Illyria," he cried, his voice ringing out across the field. And with that, the royal armies surged forward, a sea of shining armor and waving banners. The clash of steel rang out like thunder, the sound of battle filling the air with its cacophony. As Aric led his troops into the heart of the fray, he felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. This was what he had been born for, what he had trained his whole life for, to defend his kingdom against all who would dare to threaten it. But amidst the chaos of war, there was a voice in the back of Aric's mind, whispering words of doubt and uncertainty. Was this truly the right path to take? Was he fighting for the greater good, or was he simply perpetuating a cycle of violence and destruction? As the battle raged on, Aric found himself grappling with these questions, his once unwavering resolve beginning to falter. With each enemy he struck down, he felt a pang of guilt in his heart, a reminder of the lives being lost in the name of victory. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the battlefield, Bryn watched in horror as the devastation of war unfolded before his eyes. The once idyllic countryside was now littered with the bodies of fallen soldiers, their lifeless forms a grim reminder of the cost of conflict. For the first time, Bryn truly understood the magnitude of the decision that had been made, the lives that had been lost in the pursuit of power and glory. And as he looked upon the carnage around him, he felt a wave of despair wash over him, threatening to engulf him in its darkness. But amidst the despair, there was a flicker of hope, a glimmer of light amidst the darkness. For in that moment of reckoning, Bryn realized that there was still a chance to make things right, to change the course of history and bring an end to the bloodshed. And with that realization, Bryn made a decision. He would no longer stand idly by while his kingdom tore itself apart. He would take a stand for what he believed in, even if it meant defying his own family. For in the end, Bryn knew that true courage lay not in the wielding of a sword, but in the willingness to stand up for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. A sense of purpose filled his heart, driving him forward into the fray. For on this day, war had come to Illyria. But amidst the chaos and strife, there was still hope, hope for a better tomorrow, where peace and prosperity could reign once more. And it was a hope worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The kingdom of Illyria stood divided, torn apart by the ravages of war. As the battle raged on, Aric and Bryn found themselves on opposite sides of the battlefield, their once unbreakable bond stretched to its limits. Aric fought alongside the royal armies, his sword flashing in the sunlight as he clashed with the rebel forces. With each swing of his blade, he felt the weight of his family's legacy bearing down upon him, driving him forward with a fierce determination. But amidst the chaos of battle, doubts began to creep into Aric's mind. Was he truly fighting for the right cause, or was he simply a pawn in his father's quest for power? As he looked upon the faces of the soldiers he fought against, he saw not enemies, but men like himself, caught up in a conflict not of their making. And as the day wore on and the sun began to sink beneath the horizon, Aric found himself grappling with these questions, his once unwavering resolve beginning to falter. Could he continue to fight for a cause he no longer believed in, or was it time to take a stand for what he truly believed was right? Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Bryn fought alongside the rebel forces, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. With each blow he struck against the royal armies, he felt a pang of guilt in his heart, a reminder of the brother he fought against on the other side. But amidst the guilt, there was a sense of liberation, a feeling of finally being true to himself and his beliefs. For too long, Bryn had stood in the shadow of his brother, conforming to the expectations placed upon him by his family and society. But now, in the heat of battle, he had found his voice, and he would not be silenced. As the night descended upon the battlefield and the sounds of battle faded into the distance, Aric and Bryn found themselves confronting the harsh realities of war. For the first time, they saw the true cost of their actions, the lives lost, the families torn apart, the land ravaged by violence. And in that moment of reckoning, they knew that they could no longer stand idly by while their kingdom tore itself apart. They would have to make a choice, to continue down the path of destruction, or to forge a new way forward, one built upon the pillars of peace and reconciliation. For Aric, the decision was clear. With a heavy heart, he laid down his sword and turned his back on the battlefield, determined to find a way to end the bloodshed once and for all. And as he made his way towards the rebel camp, he felt a sense of relief wash over him, knowing that he was finally following his own path, free from the constraints of duty and obligation. And for Bryn, the choice was equally as clear. With a newfound sense of purpose, he raised his voice in defiance, rallying his fellow rebels to his cause. Together, they would fight for a better tomorrow, one where the kingdom of Eloria could be whole once more. As the brothers stood on opposite sides of the battlefield, their destinies intertwined by fate, they knew that the road ahead would not be easy. But with courage in their hearts and the strength of their bond to guide them, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their quest for peace and justice. As the echoes of battle faded into the distance, Aric and Bryn found themselves thrust into roles they had never anticipated, leaders in a war-torn kingdom. But as they faced the trials of leadership, they would discover that true strength lies not in the wielding of a sword, but in the courage to lead with compassion and integrity. For Aric, the challenges of leadership came swiftly and without mercy. As he assumed command of the royal armies, he found himself struggling to maintain order and discipline within the ranks. The soldiers looked to him for guidance and direction, but Aric was plagued by doubts and uncertainty. With each passing day, the weight of responsibility bore down upon him like a heavy cloak, threatening to suffocate him beneath its burden. But Aric knew that he could not afford to falter, not when the fate of the kingdom hung in the balance. And so, with a determined resolve, he rallied his troops and led them with unwavering determination. He instilled in them a sense of duty and honor, reminding them of the importance of their cause and the sacrifices that had been made in its name. But amidst the chaos of war, there was a voice of dissent, a whisper of doubt that lingered in the air like a specter. Some of the soldiers questioned the righteousness of their cause, while others longed for an end to the bloodshed. For Aric, these challenges were a test of his leadership, a trial by fire that would ultimately define his legacy. And as he navigated the treacherous waters of war, he would discover that true leadership requires more than just strength of arms. It requires a willingness to listen, to empathize, and to adapt to the changing tide of fate. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Bryn found himself thrust into a leadership role of his own. As a reluctant leader among the rebels, he advocated for peace and reconciliation amidst the chaos of war. With each passing day, Bryn's voice grew stronger, his words resonating with a clarity and conviction that belied his youth. He spoke of a better tomorrow, one where the kingdom of Illyria could be whole once more, free from the shackles of violence and oppression. But his path was not without its challenges. The rebel forces were divided, their ranks filled with those who sought vengeance and retribution. Bryn knew that he would have to tread carefully, balancing the demands of his followers with the need for restraint and diplomacy. And as he grappled with the complexities of leadership, Bryn found himself torn between loyalty to his family and his own beliefs. He knew that his brother fought on the other side of the battlefield, but he could not bring himself to abandon his principles in the name of kinship. For Bryn, the path to peace was fraught with peril, but he knew that he could not turn back now. With a steadfast determination, he pressed forward, his heart filled with hope for a brighter tomorrow. As the brothers' paths diverged further, they found themselves drawn inexorably towards their respective destinies. But amidst the chaos and strife, there remained a glimmer of hope, a hope that one day, the kingdom of Illyria would rise from the ashes of war, united once more under the banner of peace and reconciliation. As the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness fell upon the kingdom of Illyria, Aric and Bryn found themselves grappling with shadows of doubt that threatened to engulf them. For Aric, the doubts began to creep in slowly, like tendrils of mist winding their way through the corridors of his mind. As he witnessed the suffering inflicted upon the people of Illyria, his faith in his father's cause began to waver. The once proud and unwavering prince found himself haunted by the faces of those whose lives had been torn apart by the ravages of war. He saw the widows weeping for their fallen husbands, the children left orphaned and alone, and the villages reduced to rubble by the relentless march of the royal armies. With each passing day, Aric felt the weight of his actions bearing down upon him like a millstone around his neck. He questioned the righteousness of their cause, wondering if the ends truly justified the means. But amidst the doubts, there was a flicker of hope, a glimmer of light amidst the darkness. For Aric knew that he could not continue down this path of destruction, not when the cost was so high. And so, with a heavy heart and a determined resolve, he made a decision. He would confront his father and plead for an end to the bloodshed, for a new way forward that did not rely on violence and oppression. Meanwhile, on the other side of the kingdom, Bryn grappled with doubt of his own. Torn between his desire for peace and his loyalty to the rebel cause, he found himself at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. For too long, Bryn had fought alongside his fellow rebels, advocating for peace and reconciliation amidst the chaos of war. But as he witnessed the suffering inflicted upon the people of Illyria, he began to question the righteousness of their actions. Was he truly fighting for the greater good, or was he simply perpetuating a cycle of violence and destruction? With each blow he struck against the royal armies, he felt a pang of guilt in his heart, a reminder of the lives being lost in the name of victory. But amidst the doubts, there was a sense of determination, a feeling of finally being true to himself and his beliefs. Bryn knew that he could no longer stand idly by while his kingdom tore itself apart. He would take a stand for what he believed in, even if it meant defying his own family. And so, as the night wore on and the stars twinkled overhead, Aric and Bryn found themselves confronting the moral complexities of their choices. For in the darkness of doubt, they discovered a glimmer of hope, a hope that one day, they could forge a new way forward, one built upon the pillars of peace and reconciliation. As the smoke cleared and the echoes of battle faded into the distance, the kingdom of Illyria lay ravaged and broken, a shadow of its former glory. The toll of the civil war weighed heavily on the land, leaving death and destruction in its wake. For Aric and Bryn, the consequences of their decisions loomed large, casting a dark shadow over their hearts. As they surveyed the devastation wrought by war, they were filled with a sense of guilt and remorse, knowing that they had played a part in bringing about such tragedy. The once vibrant countryside was now scarred by the scars of conflict, villages reduced to rubble, fields scorched by fire, and rivers running red with blood. The cries of the wounded echoed through the air, a haunting reminder of the cost of war. With heavy hearts, Aric and Bryn set out to confront the aftermath of the conflict, each grappling with their own sense of responsibility. They walked amidst the ruins of once proud cities, their footsteps echoing hollowly against the stone streets. As they surveyed the devastation before them, they were filled with a sense of despair. How could they have allowed things to come to this? How could they have let their kingdom descend into chaos and strife? But amidst the despair, there was a glimmer of hope, a flicker of light amidst the darkness. For in the midst of the ruins, they found survivors, men, women, and children who had weathered the storm and emerged on the other side. With each survivor they encountered, Aric and Bryn were filled with a renewed sense of determination. They knew that they could not undo the damage that had been done, but they could work to rebuild their kingdom and heal the wounds that had been inflicted upon it. And so, with a sense of purpose driving them forward, they set to work, rallying the people of Eloria to their cause. Together, they cleared away the rubble and debris, rebuilding what had been lost and forging a new way forward. But amidst the rebuilding, there was a sense of sorrow, a recognition of the lives that had been lost and the families torn apart by the ravages of war. Aric and Bryn knew that they could never fully atone for the sins of the past, but they would do everything in their power to ensure that such tragedy never befell their kingdom again. As they worked side by side, their bond was tested like never before. They argued and bickered, their tempers flaring in the heat of the moment. But through it all, they remained united in their determination to rebuild their kingdom and forge a new way forward. For in the end, they knew that their bond was stronger than any obstacle they might face. Together, they would overcome the darkness that had descended upon their kingdom and bring about a new dawn of hope and prosperity. On the battlefield, amidst the chaos and strife, Aric and Bryn's paths converged once more. The air crackled with tension as the two brothers stood facing each other, their eyes locked in a silent exchange of defiance and determination. For Aric, the sight of his younger brother on the opposing side filled him with a mixture of anger and sorrow. How could Bryn have betrayed their family and their kingdom, he wondered, his heart heavy with disappointment. But amidst the anger, there was a flicker of something else, a glimmer of hope that perhaps, amidst the chaos of war, there was still a chance for reconciliation. And so, with a heavy heart and a determined resolve, Aric stepped forward to confront his brother. "Bryn," he called out, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "It doesn't have to be like this. We can still find a way to end this conflict peacefully." But Bryn remained silent, his gaze unwavering as he faced his brother's accusations. He knew that he could not turn back now, not when he had come so far in his quest for peace and justice. And so, with a voice filled with conviction, Bryn spoke. "Aric," he said, his tone firm, "I cannot stand idly by while our kingdom tears itself apart. We must put an end to this conflict, by any means necessary." But Aric shook his head, his eyes filled with sadness. "No, Bryn," he said, his voice soft. "There is always another way. We cannot let our differences tear us apart. We are brothers, bound by blood and by love." And with that, Aric lowered his sword and extended a hand towards his brother, a gesture of peace amidst the chaos of war. For a moment, Bryn hesitated, his eyes flickering with uncertainty. But then, with a resigned sigh, he reached out and clasped his brother's hand, their fingers intertwining in a silent acknowledgement of their bond. And in that moment, amidst the clash of steel and the roar of battle, Aric and Bryn forged a tentative truce. They may have been on opposite sides of the battlefield, but they were united by something far stronger, the bond of brotherhood. As they stood together amidst the chaos of war, they began to see the humanity in each other's choices, to understand the reasons behind their actions. And though their ideals and convictions still clashed, they knew that they were stronger together than they ever could be apart. And so, as the sun began to set on the battlefield, Aric and Bryn stood side by side, their hearts heavy with the weight of the conflict that still raged around them. But amidst the darkness, there was a glimmer of hope, a hope that perhaps, one day, they could find a way to bring peace to their kingdom once and for all. As the sun rose on the battered kingdom of Illyria, Aric and Bryn stood side by side, their hearts heavy with the weight of the past and the promise of the future. Together, they had resolved to end the bloodshed and bring peace to their land, no matter the cost. With a sense of determination driving them forward, Aric and Bryn set out to broker a ceasefire between the warring factions. They traversed the battlefield, their footsteps echoing against the scorched earth as they sought out the leaders of the rebel forces and the royal armies. As they approached the opposing camps, tension hung thick in the air, like a storm waiting to break. But Aric and Bryn remained undeterred, their resolve unwavering as they faced the leaders of the warring factions. With words of wisdom and compassion, they appealed to the humanity within their adversaries, urging them to lay down their arms and embrace the path of peace. And slowly, but surely, their words began to take hold, as the leaders of the rebel forces and the royal armies agreed to a temporary ceasefire. With the ceasefire in place, Aric and Bryn set about the task of bringing their kingdom back from the brink of destruction. They worked tirelessly to heal the wounds of war, providing aid and support to those who had been affected by the conflict. Together, they traveled the length and breadth of the kingdom, meeting with villagers and townsfolk, soldiers and civilians alike. They listened to their stories of loss and suffering, offering comfort and solace in their darkest hour. But amidst the chaos of reconstruction, there was a sense of hope, a feeling of renewal that permeated the air like a spring breeze. For Aric and Bryn knew that they were not alone in their quest for peace. They were joined by the people of Illyria, united in their desire to rebuild their kingdom from the ashes of war. As they worked side by side, Aric and Bryn confronted their past actions and sought redemption for the suffering they had caused. They acknowledged their mistakes and vowed to learn from them, to build a future where peace and prosperity could flourish. And as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the kingdom of Illyria began to heal. The scars of war slowly faded, replaced by a sense of hope and optimism for the future. With Aric and Bryn at the helm, Illyria emerged from the shadows of conflict stronger and more united than ever before. And as they stood together, their hands clasped in solidarity, they knew that they had forged a new path forward for their kingdom, a path built upon the principles of redemption and reconciliation, where peace and justice could reign supreme. With the civil war finally at an end, Aric and Bryn stood united as the new leaders of their land, their hearts filled with hope and determination for the future. Together, they set out to rebuild their kingdom, guided by the principles of compassion, justice, and the enduring bond of brotherhood. They worked tirelessly to heal the wounds of war, providing aid and support to those who had been affected by the conflict. With each passing day, Illyria began to transform before their very eyes. Villages were rebuilt, fields were sown with seeds of hope, and the laughter of children echoed through the streets once more. But amidst the rebuilding, there was a sense of reflection, a recognition of the journey that had brought them to this moment. For Aric and Bryn, their path had been fraught with challenges and obstacles, but it had also been filled with moments of courage and resilience. As they looked back on their journey, they knew that they had been tested in ways they could never have imagined. They had faced adversity head-on, confronting their own doubts and fears, and emerging stronger and more united than ever before. And as they worked side by side to forge a new future for their kingdom, they found strength in their bond of brotherhood. Together, they navigated the complexities of leadership, drawing upon each other's strengths and supporting each other through the darkest of times. With Aric's strategic vision and Bryn's compassion and empathy, they guided Iloria towards a brighter tomorrow, where peace and prosperity could flourish once more. But amidst the rebuilding, there were moments of reflection, reminders of the sacrifices that had been made in the name of peace. They honored the memory of those who had fallen in the conflict, vowing to never forget the lessons they had learned. And as they looked out over the kingdom they had fought so hard to save, they knew that their journey was far from over. There were still challenges to be faced, still obstacles to overcome. But amidst the uncertainty of the future, there was a sense of hope, a belief that no matter what trials lay ahead, they would face them together, as brothers united in purpose and determination. And as the sun set on another day in Iloria, Aric and Bryn stood side by side, their hands clasped in solidarity, their hearts filled with hope for the future. For in the end, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as brothers united in purpose and determination. And with that, they turned towards the horizon, ready to greet whatever new dawn awaited them.